Alright warriors, and welcome back to another video. Today I want to chat to you about the QL, the quadratus lumborum. It's a small rectangular muscle in your lower back, and although it is small, it can have a big impact when it comes to your lower back strength, movement quality, and also lower back pain as well. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how exactly we can go about strengthening this muscle and also integrating it in so that things hopefully work a little bit better. This muscle can also be a prime suspect when it comes to things like uneven hips, hip hikes, and other imbalances, especially when it comes to rotational athletes as well. I myself have played golf for a number of years and I've suffered with the issues of that single-sided rotational sport and the impacts that that can have. So I'm well aware of how to strengthen this muscle and how to deal with some of the issues that it comes up with. So without further ado, let's jump into this video. I'm first of all going to cover a little bit to do with the function of the QL. We're then going to take a look at a few drills that both strengthen it and then also help to integrate it as well. So as I said, the QL is a small rectangular muscle in the lower back, and it is involved primarily in lateral flexion. That's this crunching from side to side, but is also involved in lumbar extension, so that lower back extension as well. Some form of Romanian deadlift or deadlift, you're going to be strengthening your lower back to some degree, and that will assist with strengthening this QL. So we're going to have it covered if we're doing some form of lower back training, and you should be doing some form of lower back training from a day-to-day perspective, but also any sort of sport you're performing will be enhanced by doing some lower back strengthening. The part that doesn't usually get touched on is that lateral flexion element. Sometimes people shy away from this one. It is generally going to be both a weakness in terms of our range of motion, but also our strengthener. Now I have done a whole video on stretching for the QL, but sometimes stretching isn't the best option. Our QL might be actually overused because it doesn't have the strength, doesn't have the capacity to actually assist in the movements we're trying to do, in which case stretching might make things worse, and instead we just need to focus on strengthening and strengthening through a full range of motion to get the most out of it. Whether this covers us for just picking up a kid or doing some more advanced stuff like the human flag or a one-arm handstand, that muscle is going to be active and going to be used. So let's talk you through a couple of drills to help strengthen it. The first one's a little bit more basic. The second one is a little bit more advanced. You might have seen these drills before. That is also great. I'm not interested in sharing anything new or revolutionary. I'm interested in sharing things that work. And hopefully the detail on how we're going to be performing it and why we're going to be performing it is key. So the first one we're going to look at is a side lying crunch. Now this one we're going to be performing with varying angles of our body towards the side. So this can be done on a Swiss ball with a wall, on just really any object that's going to lock those hips in place with our feet secured in a wall, or we can take it up to that 90-degree angle by performing this on something like a GHD. There's many different ways we can set this up, whether we're at the gym or at home. I'll link to some options in the description down below. When it comes to the setup, we want to make sure that we have a split leg position, and we want to have the leg of the side that is working towards the back. If, however, you have some lordosis, maybe some anterior pelvic tilt, you might benefit from swapping your feet in the opposite orientation, so the side that you're working, having that foot in front, as this will prevent you from overarching through the lower back, which you may want to do. Either way, we've got our split leg here. The wider we go with the legs, actually, the easier this drill becomes. Very, very simply, we're just going to focus on hinging towards the side, trying to keep the torso in a nice neutral line between our hips, so we're not going to go for any rotation with the shoulders forward or backwards. Let gravity do its work, and we can crunch back up, focusing on that side, crunching up and pulling our shoulder towards our hip. You should find in the bottom position you're going to feel a nice stretch over the side that is working, and in the top you should feel a good contraction as well. The easier one is having the arms kind of on the chest area. This is going to reduce the lever. If this is a little bit easy, we can place the hands in an overhead position instead, and this one works quite nicely as well. And then of course we can add weight if we want to. I would recommend performing this movement with a relatively controlled lowering down. I'd also pause in that stretched position for a second. I'd lift back up, and then I would hold that top position for a couple of seconds as well. If this is a little bit too intense for you just to do as an actual movement itself, we can just hold this top position as a static hold for the kind of 20, 30, 40 seconds per side, and that is a little bit more of a regression even from the simpler option. When doing this from side to side, if you notice that one side is quite a lot weaker or challenging than the other, you may want to start on that side or even perform more sets on that side just to help fix potential imbalances there, because as I said to begin with, this is one of those ones where most people have one side that is stronger than the other. And if you want to fix that, I'll link down below to a video that I've done actually on how we can go about correcting side-to-side imbalances that will give you some rules and guides for doing. Right, so this movement, the hardest portion of the movement is going to be the top. So when the QL is in its most shortened position, this is why it's a more beginner version. The next exercise I want to share with you is a standing QL crunch. Now this one again is done in that stride stance position, so we're going to have the feet split. This time we want to have the leg of the side that is working forward in our stride stance position. Because now we're standing vertical and how gravity works, the hardest portion of the movement is going to be the bottom portion of the movement when the QL is the most stretched out. This is generally going to be when it's in its weakest position. So by doing both of these exercises, we're going to effectively strengthen both ends of the range of motion. This one, again, the same principles apply. We're just going to laterally flex down. We're going to try and keep our chest neutral in line with our hips. We're going to try and avoid too much rotation here, and we're kind of going to let gravity and the weight do its work. One thing to focus on here is trying to square up the hip. We want to focus on having the glute of the back leg nice and engaged to keep those hips solid throughout this movement. Again, I would take a similar sort of tempo here. I would lower down nice and under control. I'd pause for a second in that stretch position, and then I'd pull back up all the way to the top, really thinking about that crunch. This one is going to expose you a little bit more than the first drill, so I'd recommend using a lighter weight initially and then building up to it. And again, if you really want to, you can perform isometrics like the first drill, and we'd perform the isometrics in this one in that bottom position. Right, so that's how we can specifically focus on strengthening the QL. However, as I mentioned earlier, this is about thinking of the body in a broader picture. The QL is involved in the lateral muscle sling. This is the sling that we'd use for just walking, running, doing anything in that sort of frontal plane movement. And then sometimes because of this, if there is other muscles in that chain that aren't quite working properly, the QL can take the brunt of doing the work for it. And that tends to be the glutes. If the glutes are weak, the lower back is going to do more work, specifically in this instance, talking about the glute medius and its relationship to the QL. I've got a nice little side plank drill that I'm going to share with you that helps to integrate this in together. And a thanks to Emmett Lewis in this instance, who helped me to kind of tweak and figure this one out. So in this instance, we're going to take a pretty standard glute medius drill that is often given, and that is the clam openings. So this is commonly used by physios to help strengthen the glute medius, but it's also one of those ones that you see like some random Gymshark athlete doing to build their glutes up, whereas in reality, you'd be better off just doing some squats and actual strength work. That's a rant for another video. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be integrating this clam opening movement, which is going to focus on that glute medius, but we're going to be integrating it into a side plank, which is then going to help us use it in relation to our QL. So this one is relatively straightforward. It's going to start as we would lying on our side. We kind of want to have the hips at a 45-degree angle, so we don't want to have the knees all the way up to the chest. We don't want to have our legs straight. We want to kind of have them in between the two. From here, you're going to initiate this movement by opening the clamshell, and then from here, you're going to drive that knee into the ground, and that's going to help you lift the hips off the ground and then into that side plank position, and then you'd lower back down. That is kind of the rep done. In the same way that we perform the other two movements, we can do this one by lifting up, holding briefly for a couple of seconds in that top position, and then lowering under control. Just again, like the rest of them, if you notice that one side is weaker than the other, one side fatigues quicker, etc., you're going to want to start and prioritize that side first. This is kind of a specific example. There's also plenty of other examples of how we can integrate this in. Much of this actually comes from just doing normal lower body strength training. Things like split squats is going to be a fantastic way to train this lateral muscle system as well. But I'd have thought with these three drills and a little bit of the knowledge shared in this video, I should think it will help you out to strengthen that QL, help bulletproof the lower back a little bit more, as well as increase that range of motion. If I've missed anything, if you have any questions, or if you just want to add something to the conversation, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your opinion on this one. If you just enjoyed this video, you can always hit that thumbs up button and support the channel. Right next to it is that subscribe button if you want to join the Bodyweight Warrior tribe. But that's basically been it for this week, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week and peace.